Hey guys, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to everyone. Wow, lots of comments here already. Let me know if you can hear me, you guys. I'm always worried that something's going to go wrong with technology and yeah, it will all fall apart. Think we'll hear good news? Nope. No, not the best news, but we'll go through it. Amazing. Thank you, Tim, backtracking. And yes, you're right. The news is not great. I believe it was Transport King. You said that the fuel is going up. It is. It's a darn mess. How are you guys doing today? I personally am boiling. This office is interesting. And I think I said this before, but as you can see, my coworker, she keeps that because during the week, it's Antarctica here. During the weekend, it's hell. Blue Hawaii, Elvis Presley. You know what? I've watched the Elvis Presley movie. I don't know how I feel about it. I thought I would love it. I really like, what is that movie about Freddie Mercury? It's a really good one. Geez, now it's not going to leave me alone. Hold on, Freddie. It's called Bohemian Rhapsody. There we go. That's a good movie. Made me cry. All right, we have 2 more minutes, so I'm going to wait a little bit, wait for everyone to join. Hey guys. Tony, it just started. We're actually early, so we still have about 2 more minutes before we actually start. Hi, Sandro from Georgia. Gamarjoba. My name is Miranda, by the way, but I know a lot of people think it's Amanda. It's Miranda. Now I can see. What's going on? I'm doing good. I'm doing okay considering it's Sunday, which makes me happy. It means that I get to take somewhat of a rest after this live. So that's always good. But yeah, it's okay. Hi there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys too. You teach me so much, really, every single day. Today, actually, a broker taught me something new, something that I didn't know. Maybe, this is something you guys will learn too. I did not know that in the state of Texas, you can legally transport up to 14 feet in height. That was a new one for me, which means 9 feet high. The load. See, you learn something new every day. All right, so we are going to wait another minute before I start getting ahead of myself. Thank you. All right, it is 4:30 Eastern, which means I promised you guys that we'll talk about the market, and I have attached all the charts in the description below this video so you can access them. Unfortunately, I have no way to share my screen on this live, so I'll be just talking through it, answering questions in the meantime. I know I didn't do this video on Friday, but yeah, time gets away from me. But in terms of capacity, unfortunately, I didn't manage to use the sonar charts because they're super delayed, which is kind of annoying. They're supposed to be updated on a weekly basis, but unfortunately, they're not, at least not yet. So I had to actually go out and calculate again. So not this past week, but the week before, there were 307 carriers that we lost, which is not a lot. It's still a negative number, but hey, it's not a lot. Now, in terms of new authorities, we have had that week, it was the highest amount of new authorities in a week since 4 weeks ago, which is interesting. Basically, more and more people are still getting in, and I'm starting to think this has to be because of peak season. This is what we have been kind of talking about, that there is a possibility that with peak season, a lot of potential carriers will think this is a really good time to come in, because they, just historically speaking, this is when you make money. But unfortunately, we're not there yet, and still carriers are coming in. And then, yeah, in terms of the monthly, we've had the second lowest monthly net change, negative net change, since April, except for June. June was a little bit less carriers. So that's where we are with capacity. Now let me take a look at what questions I'm missing here. I have a truck dispatching company, but the plan is to move towards brokerage as well. I mean, I'm not going to discourage you from it. It's we really are lacking good brokers. I mean, there are good brokers out there, of course, don't get me wrong, but I think there's so much crap there now that we're really in need of good and fair brokers. Hi, Mark. Congrats. We do not operate Hotshots. We do only semi trucks. All right. Anyway, let's talk about where is my. So, in terms of market news, in terms of, I disagree with you, Catch G. Truck dispatching companies are the devil. This is what you said. That is, there are a lot of, just like, you know what? Let's be fair. There are good and bad in everything, right? There are those dispatching companies that do not provide a good service at all, yet charge you extra, and it's just a mess. But there are some dispatching companies that can be a really big asset to a carrier. Again, it's about finding those people. There's good and bad in everything. When do you see the market changing for freight volume? Well, let's talk about the market a little bit. So volumes, they kind of, crashed over the last week. And this is normal because of Labor Day. Tender rejections also started going down. They're at 4.2, which means that 4.2% of loads are getting rejected. We had a high of like 4.3 almost, I believe. Again, this is normal for this time of year. The only question is it going to continue going down, or is there going to be upward pressure? And this depends on a few things. It depends on what the volume is doing, and it depends on what capacity is doing. Capacity is still decreasing in the market when we look at carriers, but unfortunately, it's not decreasing at the rate we need it to create a significant change quite yet. Okay. I'm going to try doing this while answering questions. How do brokers market their business? I actually, I don't know. I know there's a lot of cold calling involved. One of the things you'll hear brokers say is like, oh, if you don't like us, go get a shipper or client yourself, because they use the fact that when they're trying to acquire shippers, it takes a lot of work. One guy, I think, said it took him a year to acquire one shipper. But other than the cold calling, I'm not sure. Which brokerage companies work with new MCs? I believe TQL still does, but not on all loads. I know that for reefers, they will not put you on an ice cream load unless you have unless you've done a few loads with them in the past. Then who else? Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't worked with Uber Freight forever, but Uber Freight, I believe, is one of those brokers that work with new MCs. 70% are the devil. Okay, yeah, I can agree with that, Kaj. That I can agree with. Um, I knew about a broker who had 6 trucks, but a year ago, the mob told the broker he could only have one business. Wow. Yikes. Yeah, there we go. Uh, Invader, WCF Invader. You love the dispatch company you use. Yeah, dispatchers can be a really big asset, especially if they don't just dispatch, but provide some other services like back office, help you with IFTA, whatnot. They can be very helpful to the business. Hi, dissident. Welcome. If shippers aren't controlling the market, then why are they cutting contracts more times per year this year? In my opinion, brokers are trying to stay afloat as much as we are. Tim, back trucking, you know what? You're not wrong. When I said that shippers are in the clear, is because their prices are set by two parties, brokers and carriers. Brokers are freaking out because they have a ton of competition. So each one is outbidding the other just to get that client and that load. Carriers are doing the same thing. You know, there's so much competition that each carrier is outbidding each other to get that one crappy load from the broker. So that's what I mean when I say shippers are in the clear. They're not saints. They definitely are not saints. I have a direct shipper that every day sends an email on different loads that he has. And every day the price is lower and lower. This is for flatbeds. So yeah, shippers are not saints. Anyway, in terms of volumes and rejections, yeah, rejections went down by 4.3% since last week, and volumes went down by 11%. But again, this is normal for this time of year. It's going to be an interesting live. I'm trying to do two things at once. Let's see. What GPS we're using? We're using Garmin. Garmin, I forgot which one it is. I know it's DEZL, Dezel Garmin, but I forgot the number. Garmin's pretty good. The one that shows you bridge heights. Google has had technical problems in the past 24 hours. Oh, interesting. Really? Hold on. Now I'm curious. My microphone is blocking my darn keyboard. Huh, curious. Thank you, Mark. Sure thing, the Roofster. Hi, JP from Bakersfield, California. You're not too far from where we are. Yeah, there's a lot of knocking on doors and cold calling to try and work with direct shipper. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Vlad. You didn't miss much yet. We're kind of talking about the market, doing a market update and forecast while also answering question. Wendell, how much do I charge for flatbedding? You mean in terms, I try to be as close to $3 per mile with deadhead as possible. Usually it's around, usually, especially in this market, it's around 270 per mile. Sometimes, if you're lucky, there are times where it's like 220 per mile with deadhead. Is there any way to put your DOT on hold for a few months? DOT number, are you looking to put your MC number on hold? Because your DOT number, it doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to activate it. MC number on hold, I would reach out to the FMCSA. Mehrab, we don't own. What do you mean, how many carriers? I'm not a dispatcher. I'm a carrier myself, and I have 2 trucking companies. Yeah, exactly. Tim back trucking. That's a great way to put it. Shippers are just using the current situation that is created by brokers and carriers to their advantage. That's the perfect way of saying it. Garmin is the best. Yeah, we like it. It's pretty good. Oh, you use Apple Maps? I prefer, I don't know why, even though I'm a, MacBook, iPad, iPhone girl, I prefer Google Maps too. I cannot figure out Apple Maps. For some reason, it just, something is missing there. How is our flatbed going? It's getting worse. I'm not going to lie. It's getting worse. It's getting harder and harder. There are some markets, like I said, um, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, we accidentally, but this was with a step deck, but it wasn't a step deck specific load. We accidentally ended up in near Memphis, Tennessee. And that was just, it reminded me of 2021. That was really fun because I always post my truck. I know you guys say don't post it because brokers are going to reach out and give you the cheapest rates. I nearly said a better bad word. But I always post my truck. And it was just so much fun. I'm talking to one broker, and in that like 2-minute conversation, I already had 10 missed calls. I love being in that position. So there are moments, good moments, but in general, yeah, the market is going down for flatbeds. And just so you guys know, since we're on the flatbed topic, loads, they decreased on the spot market last week, and rates, actually, rates stayed the same, which is very surprising. Rates, even though the volumes decreased, rates stayed around that $2.30 average mark for loaded miles for flatbeds. Yeah. According to the 5-year average, actually, they should stay somewhere around that for, the next few weeks and month. I mean, for the next 2 months or so. Then they will go down and go back up towards the end of the year. This is according to the average. But again, we're in a weird situation. So that average, you take it with a grain of salt. Mind if I ask where that step deck? Oh, yeah. Manuel. It was near Memphis, Tennessee. Could we hire you to broker for us? No, I don't have the license to broker. And I also don't have, I have like a few direct shippers. So I'm not really interested in being a broker. I understand this is something that I will probably want to do later on. If I want my trucking companies to be kind of, what is the word? Not autonomous. It's like, where I don't have to micromanage it every day in order for everything to go smoothly. Once that happens, I'm going to be looking into how to kind of close that chain, starting with being a broker and, working with direct shippers, maybe brokering some loads to other carriers and taking for my own trucks as well, maybe. But this is far, far away. Oh, thank you, Adam. I'm glad. Um, let's see. Why do you have two trucking companies? So I made a video specifically because I get a lot of questions about how I got in, why I have two trucking companies, what kind of shady crap am I up to? I get that all the time because unfortunately people, and I'm not talking about you here, Mark, but I'm talking about a lot of people think that I must be doing something shady if I have two trucking companies. I made a video of how I got into the trucking industry where I explain it all. Yeah. Um, how is your transition to working as a carrier? I never you mean from just not being in the trucking industry? Because I started off in this industry as a carrier. This is where I started. I didn't start as a dispatcher, but if you're asking how was the transition from doing something totally different in the fashion industry to trucking, it was a learning curve for sure. Any advice? Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think they're stupid. That's my best piece of advice because that video I was talking about, where I talk about how I got into the trucking industry, I talk about how many questions I was asking and how annoyed the DOT got with me. um, all right. Before I answer any more questions, let's talk about diesel, because diesel is horrible. Now, diesel, yeah, it's kind of, there were a few days there where I'm like, okay, finally it plateaued, but now it's up to $4.50 per gallon national average. But the good news is there are certain places, you remember the map, the diesel map I show, where it's green or red? Thankfully, it looks like, yeah, the West Coast, I mean, diesel prices are continuing to go up. Missouri, Minnesota, South Carolina, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, Michigan, Virginia, Texas, basically some of the South, some of the Southeast saw a decrease in prices, which is nice. But yeah, in general, diesel prices are going up. How's dry van looking as we come towards the end of the year? Great question. So in terms of spot loads last week increased by a tiny little amount, like they should have. They're following that 5-year average. Now, the spot rates for dry vans, they actually had a nice jump. They finally passed the $2 mark on average on the spot market. And this is probably because of the fact that it was leading up to Labor Day, right? So there's that. In terms of van rejections in the general freight market, not the spot market, it looks pretty good. If you look at the charts, it looks pretty decent relative to what it used to look like. It looks like the eastern part of the US experienced an increase in tender rejections pretty much, not everywhere, but the majority of places. There was also Southern California, the Las Vegas, Nevada area, and the Seattle, Washington area that experienced increases. Now, the North, South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, parts of Montana, and then West Virginia and Virginia, they actually experienced a decrease in rejections since last week. But in terms of where you have to go with the van, let me open up my sonar because I just had it. No, this is reefer. So it's interesting. Southern California, 5.79% rejection, a ton of volume. And this is probably the only place in the West Coast you should be even looking at with a dry van. Not a lot of tender rejections, but again, the volume makes up for that. Just remember the diesel prices are absolutely ridiculous, especially in California. Then we have Wisconsin, Green Bay market, 13.3% rejection, decent volume. And then below it, the markets there, the rejection rates are like 7%, 6%, nothing fantastic, but relatively better than anywhere else. So Wisconsin is an interesting market, as well as the just Midwest, like Iowa, Illinois, Missouri. Yeah. Memphis, Tennessee, 7% almost rejection. Houston, Texas, stay away from. It's not that good. It's getting worse, it feels like. But yeah, I would say Midwest is the best, relatively best place to be with dry vans next week. And Southern California, but be careful of that fuel price. It's going to eat up all the profits. Anyway, where was I? Let me answer some questions. Flatbed J, you want to ask me something? Ask me something. I'm here. Ow, jeez. Yeah, Timback Trucking, I agree. Over at $2 per mile for a van, which is I mean, it's good considering the overall market, but it is hard. It's very, very hard to find those good loads. You either have to be really patient and wait the whole day for a stress sale to come out, or for someone to break down and not be able to pick up a load. It's just, yeah, it's not fun. Ted Motley. So we don't go to Oregon very often. We just don't hit the West Coast very often with our flatbed. But the last time we were in Oregon, something I realized is that brokers are panicking there, but most of the good paying lanes are going to dead markets like Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota, not even South Dakota, North Dakota, Colorado, those markets. This is what I noticed, but I don't yeah, we don't end up in places like Washington or Oregon very often. We do end up in California, pretty often. Well, not pretty often, but my business partners need to take time off. So, and since they live in California, this is where we end up. And California is terrible for flatbeds. If you want a good load, you have to wait until everyone has booked the cheap stuff, and then a broker gets a random load, or it's going to a bad market or whatnot. Yeah, that's the only way to book a decent rate per mile. We got over $3 per mile that way for a load going to middle of nowhere, Colorado. It's not fun. By dissident. Football is important. Crispy Kreme. I didn't fully understand your question. Which carriers? I don't dispatch anyone except for my own fleet of trucks. Mm. You have a new authority. You're thinking to start with a flatbed. Which trailer would you recommend for a new authority? Well, I know that the biggest volumes are for dry vans. But dry vans are also the cheapest on the spot market. Flatbed, I could not honestly recommend anyone get into flatbed right now because of the fact that that market is the most volatile in terms of there is the most downward pressure on flatbeds at the moment, and it's the most seasonal. This is the time where the rates start going down, just according to history. Reefers are interesting. Reefers usually do better during peak season. A lot of perishables get shipped here and there. But yeah, I would do either dry van, maybe not so much. Dry van, it just pays so bad. Maybe a reefer. How many MCs do you have? 2. I have 2 companies, so 2 MCs. You know what? I'm going to tell the story before I'm going to tell the story of repeat the story of why I have 2 trucking companies. I have 2 business partners. They're both my family members. I started this company with all 3 of them, but officially with only one of them who was already here in the US. I was here, he was here. We started a company together. My other business partner came in 2021. And he had experience in Europe with a CDL for over 20 years or 30 years. I don't even know. It was a ton of experience, but the CDL is non-transferable here. So here he was considered brand new. And under our original company, there was no way to put him under our insurance because of the fact that he was considered brand new in the United States. So we had to make a choice. Do we raise the cost of insurance on all our trucks under their original company, or do we just open a company for my other business partner, just for him, and get maybe a little bit more expensive insurance, but only for that one truck? So we decided to get that one. And that company is just still there. Yeah. Pretty simple. Biggest problem are carriers. We basically let brokers set the market price. Yeah. No, I think I don't agree that it's the biggest problem. I think it's equally carriers and brokers, because brokers, you have to understand, they're in we love to hate on brokers, but they're in a very similar position as carriers are. I keep moving my table, sorry. Brokers are in a position, a ton of brokers came into this industry in 2021, right? Because brokers were making a ton of money then too. The only people who were losing money was the shippers, or the only people who were paying more for transportation. They weren't losing money because they had more orders, so quantity. But now brokers have a ton of competition, and the shipper is going to go with the lowest bidder. It's pretty simple. And the broker's sole goal is to make sure that they have a client to find capacity for, because that's where they get the money. So it's both. Have we picked up coils, aluminum coils in Russellville? No, but we have hauled aluminum coils, which was something that, yeah, it was. I try to stay away from coils as much as possible. They personally scare me, but there was this load that they said it's construction materials, right? And then they explained that it's actually a container that needs it's a strap and go container, maybe a couple of chains. We get there, it's a huge coil, 3 of them. I was not happy. $5 per gallon in Colorado. Yikes. Yeah. Oops, it skipped. If diesel does, I saw that comment. If diesel doesn't go down, I'll be buying an electric truck. It will go down eventually. The question is when. I've been in the business since 1993. How long you've been hearing that if carriers would not take cheap freight, the rates would come up. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If carriers did not take cheap freight, that it's a solid argument for sure. But there's also the question of supply and demand. It's pretty much normal. Some people will disagree with me, but it's pretty much normal. If the market is oversupplied and the competition is there, the prices are going to go down because each person wants to gain that business. And just in theory, yes, absolutely. If carriers would just stop taking cheap freight, if brokers would just stop trying to underbid each other, we would all be much happier. What steps are you taking to automate your 2 companies? Absolutely none. None. Zero. Because I'm not looking, this is something that can potentially happen. I'm not actively looking to get into brokering or freight forwarding or anything like that, but this is a potential path. But right now, I'm not looking to do anything. This is a bad time. I want to micromanage my own 2 companies. And I will micromanage. I have a very hard time delegating, which is why I'm often tired. But yeah, delegating for me it's hard. Tony Romero. So on the FreightWaves website, if you scroll down, they have a ticker there. And if you click on diesel, they will show you every day what the diesel truck stop averages are. You can also use AAA fuel, AAA, to see what the national average is. Usually what Sonar or FreightWaves estimates is higher than what AAA shows, which makes me want to believe it more. Hi, Jason. Oh, thanks, man, Ken. So I appreciate it. Haul cash. I get a lot of questions about hotshots, cargo vans, sprinter vans. I'm not familiar with that side of the industry, unfortunately. I kind of my experiences in semi trucks with dry vans, reefers, flatbeds, and now step decks, which I have not been able to find a single step deck specific load yet. But this is because we're not going to get into it anyway. But yeah, unfortunately, hotshots is something that I'm not familiar with. Stephen Miller, I agree with you. It's just a lot of people. It's not, I know I said brokers have a hard time looking past their nose in my video. I was pretty pissed off in that video. But in reality, it's a lot of people. It was carriers also, and a lot of carriers, not all of them, but a lot of carriers in 2021 couldn't look past their nose. They thought this is going to last for a long time. Yeah. How much of a fuel discount are you seeing? Usually it's around, I mean, on average, it's between 15 and 20 cents per gallon, but this is with RTS. Oh, yeah. John, absolutely. Seems like also you're getting loads on reefer where broker or customer is too cheap and then needs to pay a late fee. 100%. You know what? It's interesting. I saw one of the brokers that I'm not a fan of personally is King of Freight. I refuse to work with them. They had a load posted, and I know Colorado is a horrible area for flatbeds, but they had a load posted. It was loaded, I think it was 1,100 some miles. With Deadhead, it came out to around 1,250 miles, posted for $800. So I started looking, I'm like, okay, it must be a partial. Not a partial, it's the full 48,000 pounds. And I opened up this load just to see the comments, and the comment was something like, if you think the rate is too low, don't reach out. I mean, okay, let's say that the broker is innocent and this is just the shipper that's pushing this rate and saying that I'm not going to pay anymore. How can you take that load as a broker and expect not to ruin your reputation? It's ridiculous. Stevie J, I tend to agree with that, what they're saying. I also don't think that things will pick up until quarter two, not quarter one. Quarter two of 2024 is when we're going to start seeing things pick up, because quarter one is always dead. It's good. So, from my experience, and I just have 4 years of experience, my experience has taught me end of the year gets really interesting. And then until January 20th, January 20th is the cutoff time. Until January 20th, it seems like, oh my God, the market is really, really interesting. January 20th comes along and it just it hops off a cliff. And this lasts until like end of March, beginning of April, when things start getting a little bit more interesting. Sorry. Have I looked into becoming a broker insurance wise? Yeah, there was. So I've shared this story a couple of times. A few years ago, it was 3 years ago, I believe. I was looking into becoming a broker because I thought, okay, I'm going to just kind of, like I said, I'm going to start closing up that logistics chain so that I have a part in all of it. I did look into the bond, the $75,000 bond, but I never ended up going forward with it. It's just not, it wasn't for me then. It's not for me right now. And cold calling is something that I don't have. It's not because of cold calling. I was a recruiter. My job was to cold call. So I'm pretty comfortable with that part. I don't mind cold calling at all. It's just brokerage. Being a broker is so different than being a carrier. And this is a business that I would have to learn again. And right now, I know that all my attention has to be on my trucking companies because it's not the time where you can experiment, if that makes sense. What part of the USA do you think is best now for step decks? I think it's wherever the flatbed freight is pretty much, although I might be wrong. Step deck is something we started like a week and a half ago, and there's no specific data for step decks. Memphis was interesting, but if we look at the flatbed spot market, according to DAT, it's still the South. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, parts of Louisiana. Houston is interesting, maybe, but it's surrounded by crap. And then Oregon, Spokane, Washington, Idaho. But again, those, the Pacific Northwest is, the lanes are just really bad. Where you end up after going there is just not good. You end up, if you want a good rate per mile, you end up in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Bye, Tim. Truck and pack. We drivers do all the work, and we should be getting the majority of the pay for that load. I agree, 100%. First of all, without a carrier, there is no transporting the load from point A to point B. Without a driver, the carrier is not able to transport the load from point A to point B. So yeah, 100%. I agree. There is a market for van human trafficking. Yikes. That's terrible. Drive in out of Chicago is probably not that horrible. Out of Chicago, hold on, that's the Joliet, Illinois market. I'm just looking at Joliet, Illinois. You know what? Actually, Chicago itself is not that good for dry vans, but the surrounding areas are good. So realistically, yeah, you would have to deadhead just a little bit. It's not even 150 miles, but the market itself, Chicago itself, is not good according to like the tender rejections. It's only at 3.2% rejection there. But it's surrounded by interesting markets within a 150-mile radius. So yeah, California is doing a lot of crazy things for sure, Daniel. Landon, how am I supposed to answer that question? Do you know them by name? No one is happy right now. What is there to be? I mean, look, this is a time where you have to accept that there's going to be more bad days than good days, and it just depends on how you deal with it. So, yeah, I cannot say that anyone is happy right now. Let's see. Where was I? I'm looking at starting a dispatching business. Is it the right time? Honestly, I think that right now, Andrea, I think a lot of carriers, owner operators are going to be holding on to their money, especially with the fact that diesel prices are increasing. So you might have a little bit of a harder time finding clients. Now, something I always keep saying, dispatching is the only business where you can get in without having any proper licenses. I do recommend an errors and emissions insurance, though, just to be safe. But other than that, you don't really need anything. It's not a huge expense to get into dispatching either. The hard part is going to be to find clients who are ready to say goodbye to extra money for a service, right? So what I recommend is really kind of putting yourself, standing out from the rest of the crowd. You have to offer more than just dispatching. A lot of people can negotiate themselves. Just help them out. What does an owner operator need? An owner operator who is constantly on the road. Maybe they need help with IFTA. Maybe they need help with facility insights. Maybe they need help when their truck breaks down, in the middle of the night. And if you're there to help them find affordable roadside service, that is something. But yeah, you could get in. It's just you have to create a service that is really kind of a bang for their buck, if that makes sense. Most of the loads, I mean, with good rates tend to come from north to south or southwest, right? For which equipment type? Because most good, decent paying loads for flatbeds tend to come from the south, from places like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. For the reefer, it's more the north, like Minnesota. Let's look at the reefer actually. And Pacific Northwest for the reefer, by the way, 22.7% rejection in the Pendleton market and 33.73% rejection in the Twin Falls, Idaho market. Pretty good for reefers next week and a ton of volume. But also it's places like Michigan, it's places like Iowa, like, let's see, Minnesota is kind of dying. It's at 13.73% rejection. Texas, no good for reefer anymore. So it just depends on your equipment type. Oh, that's great, LK. As we say, tu, 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 knock on wood. Oh, yikes. Rob dog. Yeah. And it skipped. Fantastic. Love when that happens. Where was I? Oh. How behind am I? Yikes. Oh man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so behind. Okay, let me answer these questions a little quicker. B, you've made a dispatch course and a trucking course. Will you be making a broker or freight forwarder course soon? No, I will not, because all the two courses that I made, they are taught from the thing that is really valuable about them is that I teach from experience. I cannot create a broker or freight forwarder course when I don't have experience. I mean, I can teach theory, but I don't think that's going to be beneficial. Plenty of courses do that already. Now, if someday I become a broker or a freight forwarder, yeah, I'll make a course. If I don't get to your question, guys, by the way, please email me at talkabouttrucking@gmail.com. And I'll get back to you because sometimes I don't see comments. They kind of show up later when I already scrolled through. Ted, where do you usually run your flatbeds? I run it everywhere. I usually stick to the Midwest or the South as much as possible, but honestly, we end up in Texas more often than we should. And Texas is a bad, bad, bad market for flatbeds, but a lot of the loads go to Texas. One of the more interesting loads we grabbed recently was from Rock something. I forgot Rock what. Rock something, Illinois to Tennessee, Stanton, Tennessee. And from there, I got a really good rate per mile to Dallas, Texas. And then got stuck in Dallas, Texas for a day because I would not take the cheap rates that they were offering. But yeah, it's interesting. South to south, it's the hardest part is there are certain markets where you can get a decent rate, but the problem is that the lanes that are offered, they always take you to some not so great market. That's the challenge. If I could stay just in the South or the Midwest and go back and forth, I would. James, I agree with you. It's all based on someone's situation, what the bottom line is. TQL is not showing authorized on Safer. Really? I need to take a look. So RSS, what's the best fuel card? I use RTS. I'm really, really happy with our, oh yeah, Transport King answered it. I use them for both the fuel card and the factoring. Love them. Oh, thank you, Vic. Stacks. You know what? That's a absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your support. Second of all, I have to agree with you. So I was very surprised. I was very surprised for reefers. It was like a week and a half ago. We ended up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was pretty nice there. I really, really liked it. For flatbeds, I also feel like we were there not so long ago, and the rate was not bad, not as bad as I remember it being. So it's quite interesting. Yeah. Mm, 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 mm. Let's see. Show your dog more. I like him. I know. He's not mine. He's Rita's, my coworkers. I'll ask her to bring him more. Mr. D, he's so cute. He has the best personality ever. He doesn't care about anything. Oh, you're so lucky, Henry. From the Caribbean. Nice. um, let's see. There are a lot of comments. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the questions. There are comments, there are thoughts, which I appreciate. Ah, da, 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 da. Yeah. So Jeff Sweetman, yes, absolutely. You do have to have your USDOT number. Some states require your VIN number, like Utah, I believe, is the one that requires your VIN number. You have to have your MC, the name of your company. In California, you have to have your California number there. Um, my phone is going crazy for some reason. I'm good, Chris. I hope you're doing well as well. How does dry van look for this coming week in California? So, for dry van, the Southern California, which means the Ontario market, 5.79% rejection, crap ton of volume. So, it's an interesting market. Anything that is past the, let's see, what is it? Anything past, well, give me like a city or something. Jeez. I think Bakersfield. Not even Bakersfield. Anything past Lebec is already dead for dry vans in California. So only the Ontario market, but darn, it is surrounded. If you look at the van where to go chart that I have under this video, it's under the charts link. You will see that it's surrounded by gray, which means that the surrounding markets are horrible. And that means that there might be a ton of people deadheading and diluting that situation. I just did the money symbol. What was that? Oh my God. I wish. Thanks, guys. Where was I? New office. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty old at this point. It's a few months old, but yeah. Mm, sorry, reading through comments, trying to get through them. Damon, before you went into step deck, did my guys have been on flatbeds for since April, I think. One of my guys, he had sort of training in flatbed. The other one, it was kind of, yeah, he just learned as he went. But he's the business partner who had over 30 years of experience just in transportation, and he had passenger experience and this and that just in Europe. But yeah, I was freaking out, but I was wrong. They're amazing. They're amazing. I'm very lucky. Yeah, of course, there are still a lot of diesel trucks going through California. Absolutely. Anyway, okay, while I'm going to step away from the questions for a minute, and I wanted to talk about something, and I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the reefer spot market because that's the only one we didn't talk about. Loads went down on the spot market. I just promised everyone I'm going to talk about this video that I missed. Rates for the reefer actually went up for the fourth consecutive week and are currently averaging. You guys are going to be pissed off right now because I know you're going to start screaming that I don't see these kinds of rates. But on average, if we take a look at every single market and just average it out, $2.52 per mile. This is what the reefers are showing. Now, it doesn't mean that every market is going to be good. If you look at the reefer spot market map, the DAT heat map, it's getting better. I can tell you it's getting better for sure because there are more places that are hot surrounded by warmer places, which is good. But in general, the markets are still few and far between. There are certain markets where you can get a great rate. Like I forgot who it was, but said that in Pennsylvania, you can get really good rates for reefers sometimes. Yeah. So it's just taking an average of all of that. Anyway, back to answering questions. I'm good, Mark Brown. How are you? Surviving, trying to. What is a reasonable insurance quote for a truck? Well, for our first truck, when we just got, it depends how long you've been in business and how old your CDL is, right? And how old your DOT is and your MC is. But when we got in, we had a brand new CDL, brand new authority, brand new LLC. So new venture, new CDL, new authority. Our quote was something like 20 some $1,000 per year for one truck. But this was not including physical damage. We didn't have physical damage. That was a more or less reasonable quote for us at that time, especially considering that we're California carriers, and that means we're subject to the California insurance premiums, which are high, very high. What do you mean? How do you personally generate a freight rate for your truck? Can you elaborate? I didn't fully understand. Hi, Fugitive. Hey, everyone who's joining. I use the DAT load board as my main load board. I actually stopped paying for Truck Stop because I thought the Truck Stop has plenty of interesting tools there. And yes, it's a little bit better for flatbeds, but it's not $100+ per month better. So I decided to save some money. I got rid of the Truck Stop subscription and I'm sticking to my DAT or DAT. Mm, mm, mm. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I hope so too. I wish you the same. The future, it's going to be fine. We just have to, currently this is the, just keep afloat time. It's not the time to make some huge changes, says the person who just got a step deck to experiment. But it's really not a time to make huge changes right now. It's a time to stay afloat. What are the best brokers to use if you have a new MC authority? Right now, so much has changed since I got in, but from what I know, TQL, I mean, I cannot say they're the best broker, but this is a broker who will be able to consistently provide you with freight. You do have to, something to remember, negotiate, because the moment TQL has a system, an internal system that they check every single time, I know that for a fact. The moment you kind of sell your services for cheap, they're never going to go higher. So be careful with that. I believe Uber Freight also. I know I'm way behind. I way behind. Thank you, Dreamer Seat. I appreciate it. See, I'm so behind. I don't see anything. Okay. Let me start going through this and focusing. Open roads versus RTS. I've never used open roads. Mm-mm-mm-mm. How to negotiate layovers, detentions. You have to notify the broker before, do it all in writing. Otherwise, they start being wishy-washy. They will try to avoid paying you detention to pocket it. So you have to put it in writing, make sure you follow all the instructions on the rate confirmation, and yeah, follow up constantly. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Do you install cameras on your trucks? I do not. Tanner, email me, talk about trucking at gmail.com. I'll be happy to share. It just skipped again. So this, I'm going to start skipping over comments that or questions that are repeated, because this will be recorded and you can watch it later, and that way I'll be able to get to as many people as possible. Hopefully, which I fail to do every single live. Fred, what days and times, Central Time, do you do your lives? I do it at 3:30 Central, 3:30 p.m. Central every other Sunday. So if we're doing it this Sunday, that means next Sunday there won't be a live. The following Sunday there will be. Do you haul government loads? We don't. There were a couple by accident, but we really don't. Yeah. Hi, AJ Franklin. Welcome. I do not do hourly consultations. Yeah, unfortunately, due to time constraints, I do not do hourly concentrations, consultations. Geez, I'm having a hard time getting my brain in order today. Um, Fred Grover, no problem. Yeah, so the good areas for dry vans, relatively good areas. Southern California, surrounded by dead markets, be careful. And then the Midwest, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, those areas. How is the step deck doing? We're working on making it work for us. It's okay. Um, It keeps, darn it. I hate when it does that. It just skips and then I can't find anything. Um, why are brokers not paying deadhead miles? You know what? That's a great question. This is something that I realized too, and brokers will actually tell me they ask like they call on the truck and they're like, "Well, I have a load that picks up 220 miles away." And then they refuse to negotiate about the deadhead. They say that this is not their responsibility. Okay, well then I'm not deadheading, and you can find someone who's closer to take your load. Have fun with it. Mm. When you mention rate per mile, do you mean rate per mile loaded or rate per? So when I talk about the charts, like what the average is on the charts, like for reefer, it's $2.50 some cents. Those are loaded, right? This is the average of the whole US. And what is the average posted rate per mile? Those are loaded. When I calculate my own rate per mile, it always includes deadhead, which is often pretty steep. Besides age of authority and violation, is there anything else brokers look at when deciding whether to give you a load or not? Can they see the total miles you drove? Malik, that's a great question. In today's market, brokers look at the most ridiculous things. For example, I have heard, this is not my personal story, this is a story from one of our community members. He got denied a load because he didn't have a random DOT inspection in the state where he was picking up the load. So just to give you an idea, they look at everything right now. They look at anything that they can use, especially if you manage to negotiate or if you're trying to get a higher rate, they will look at anything they can use against you as to why they can't give you the load. Yeah. My pleasure, Fred. Thank you for joining. Steve, hope you do a podcast or show on how to alert carriers to double brokered loads. As a factoring company, what used to be twice per month. Wow. Yeah, I have a lot of videos where I mention it, but it's actually a good idea to just go through a video how I know whether a broker is someone to trust or someone not to trust. It's a really good idea. The only thing lately, since we're on the topic of double brokering, lately, DAT just implemented some extra security when you're logging into your account, which is great because just recently, several brokers sent an email to all their carrier network saying that someone hacked into their DAT account is posting loads through the brokerage that is completely decent in terms of their days to pay and their reputation, and is pretending to sell loads through that brokerage, in reality pocketing the money and running and never paying the carrier. So it's interesting. People are getting very creative for sure. In terms of scalable, nothing is scalable in this environment. Yeah, in this environment, I wouldn't even recommend scaling. Just keep things as they are to keep don't change too much. Things are changing enough as it is. What you have to do is just kind of hold on for dear life. Don't let go. Don't start experimenting. It's Sunday, Miranda. Chillax. I will. After this, my plan for this Sunday, as you guys, many of you already know, I am obsessed with Billions. I have watched it from start to finish, except for the last season that just came out. Yeah, I think I watched it 3 times. I love that show. This is my plan. Oh, there we go. Mother Trucker has a video on spotting double brokered loads. That's great. See? Yeah, that is good. We have a load that we took on with one of our trucks and we will not be able to fulfill it. What is the best way to handle this with the shipper? It's going to be an embarrassing. Um, well, the question is, why will you not be able to fulfill it, right? And David, is it because something happened to your equipment? What is the story behind it? If you want, you can email me and I'm happy to walk you through it. Which software do you use for all the paperwork and expenses? So for paper, I actually use a couple of different ones, and I double up information. My TMS system, which has all the expenses, all the income, is the Airtable system, right? This is what I use to keep track of everything. In terms of storing documents, Dropbox all the way. And in terms of accounting, QuickBooks. Fuel is going up, but we don't get fuel surcharge. 100%. Yep. Ron Smith, hi. Well, thank you for joining. I do apologize. See, I don't follow sports, so I'm not very familiar of when it's a good time to do a live and when people actually have better things to do. Mm-mm. Uh, Kraken Wise 18. Yeah, I agree. I think it would benefit brokers to be transparent. I think that I stand by what I said. Transparency breeds trust, and they will benefit from it in the long run. No one is asking them to, I mean, I'm sure some of you are asking, but no one is asking them to stop making money on the load and give 100% to the carrier. For that, the carrier can go and find their own direct shipper. Here, I have to say that. But don't take 20, 30, 40, 50% off the top of the load. It's just unfair, right? So I think that if more brokers become those brokers that are transparent now, they're going to be in a better situation in the next few months or quarters, in the next 2 quarters or so, when the market will turn eventually. And this is what I was trying to say in my last video, is that there is the human factor. Business is business, but there's the human factor, and the level to which carriers right now, a lot of carriers despise brokers and are looking not just to, whatever, despise them in silence. They're looking to punish them when the opportunity presents itself. So the whole goal of that video was to teach those brokers that there is that human factor. We're not robots, right? So if you want to end up finding capacity when the market flips, and it will flip, right? You have to start doing something right now. Transparency is a great way to do it. Oh, thank you, Fred. I appreciate it. Is it going to get better from now on? I'm out of savings right now. So we should see, in my opinion, I don't like making predictions, right? The market is unstable. And the peak season is not going to be the kind of peak season everyone is hoping for. But I do think, and I do hope, that Q2 of 2024 is when things are going to start getting better, more survivable. I used to love Red Bull, Transfer King. I actually cannot. Coffee. Black coffee. This is all I need. I love coffee. Yeah, James G. 100%. Um, it's funny. I read only part of your thing and now I read the whole thing, but I agree with the fact that brokers are definitely cutting their own throat right now. I like to think of it like this: they're digging their own grave without even realizing it. But in terms of, wouldn't a carrier with a random inspection have more negotiating power? I mean, technically they shouldn't. Technically they shouldn't, but yeah, where brokers don't use this as an excuse because it's, in my opinion, it's written that you cannot give a load to a carrier who didn't have a random inspection in that state where you're picking up. I think they're always just trying to find the cheaper carrier. Wu Wei. Currently, the average diesel price is $4.50 per gallon, the national average. Skipped again. Дядя Vova, спасибо, and hello. um, Ron Smith. I don't believe it's. I actually don't know where she got it. I'm not sure. It's pretty cool though. It looks really cool on. Angel B, I wish you the best of luck. Congratulations. Fingers crossed. Oh, yikes. Vlad. See, Vlad, he got scammed by a broker like this, where the actual broker never posted that load. Yeah, you have to, the way to kind of help yourself when it comes to making sure you're not working with some scammer. When you get a load, before you sign any rate confirmation, go to the Safer website, find the brokerage that gave you the load and call their office number and ask them, do you have this load? If they say no, don't sign that rate con. Malik, of course, my pleasure. Can an old carrier give loads to a new? Yeah, I think that would be considered double brokering. You as a carrier cannot as far as I know, correct guys, correct me if I'm wrong. You as a carrier cannot broker out loads that you told the broker are going under your own MC, right? Not a good idea. NSD hot. What do you think of the truck market this and next year? I think this year we're going to have a very muted peak season. It's going to be kind of blah. And then in quarter two of 2024, we're going to start seeing a little bit of relief that will hopefully build some momentum, and it will be big relief shortly after. That's a great question. If COVID has a second coming, are rates going to boom again like in 2021? It depends what the government does, right? If you know what, can you send me that question via email? Because I know that I'm about to get political here and I'm not going to do that. Send me an email so that I can give you my thoughts. I'm not going to get political here. A broker reported me on carrier 411. Oof. Yeah, so I get a lot of question, Abbas. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I get a lot of questions about how to deal with Carrier 411 because I know that that's a really annoying website. I think that, well, I think you can still call them and see if you can. I don't think they'll do anything, but guys, help, please. Here, how do you deal with a situation where a broker posted some lies about a carrier on Carrier 411? What do you do in that case? I remember someone said you have to reach out to the FMCSA, but I'm not 100% sure. Stavros, I'll have to read about that. I haven't read about it. I actually have been kind of living under a rock for the past week because of the amount of work, but I'll read about it. If you want to send me an email, I'm happy to answer that. Alexander, is factoring a good option when starting out as a carrier? Factoring can provide the cash flow you need in order to continue running, but you have to be very, very careful because factoring does tend to add up, the fees, the factoring fees. So the way we do it is we don't factor all loads. We factor like RTS, they don't force us to factor all loads. I don't know if other factoring companies do, but we only factor when we know like we really need to keep the money at a certain level. I micromanage everything. Manage it. So I like to see a certain amount in the account. If the amount goes lower than that, and I know that expenses are due, I'm going to factor loads to keep it at that amount. But if you can just factor some loads, not others, that's a little bit better because you're not losing on that fee. But factoring is a great way to manage your cash flow. Ross transfer. That's a fantastic question. The question is this: do you feel that women have a better chance at getting a load than men? I called for a load, didn't get it. My lady dispatcher called and got the load, same broker with 5 minutes apart. Something I have realized, I don't know about whether it's men versus women, but it might be the way you speak or who the broker is, because I have realized there were several situations where I would call on the load and it would usually be when I'm already pissed off from the day, and I would kind of bark at the broker and he would find an excuse not to give me the load. And then my coworker would call about 2 minutes later and she got the load and negotiated a higher price. So I don't know if it's a gender thing. I think it's more, I think maybe she got a different broker, or maybe it was her demeanor. I don't know. I can't tell you. Bobtail factoring. Has anyone dealt with bobtail factoring, guys? Alexander Wells is asking. Please get political for 2 minutes. Not a chance. Not a chance. We're keeping this about trucking. And it skipped. Again, I'm sorry if I'm not answering your question. It's either because the chat skipped like crazy and I can't find it, or because I did not see it. So send me an email if I don't answer your question. Wow, I'm having a hard time reading. I don't know what's going on. My brain is short circuiting here. Yeah, Transport King, I agree. There are a lot of new people. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining. Yes, you cannot be a broker and carrier on the same load as far as you understand. 100%. Another thing is be careful. I hear a lot of carriers thinking of getting a brokerage authority under the same MC, under the same address. Insurance companies don't like that. This is something that I have learned. I don't know why it is. Maybe if there are any insurance industry professionals in the chat, you can explain. But insurance companies will pretty much turn away from you if you're a broker and carrier under the same MC. So be careful. Kevin's, you think the game has changed forever? It will never be the same again. Look, I think supply and demand is supply and demand, right? At least for the spot market. The question is trucking going to be necessary for the economy to keep moving? And I think that yes, right? So as long as that is true, there are going to be cycles. And yeah, I think that it's going to turn around. It's not going to turn around, in my opinion, to the levels of 2021. Of course not. But it's going to stabilize. It's going to become more manageable. Alba, my email is talkabouttrucking@gmail.com. Everyone's getting political. We carriers should have a broker 411 because that carrier 411 is not regulated. Yeah, no, 100%. And it puts, first of all, it damages carriers' reputations. And in this kind of market, it really can cost carriers their business, where brokers are so darn picky, you know? Absolutely. How do you go after a broker who doesn't want to pay you? So if it was a scam, we've had a scam. In that case, I called the shipper directly, explained the situation. Then I called the receiver. The receiver gave me the name of their in-house broker. I called that in-house broker. Then they gave me the name of the carrier they actually sold this load to. I called that carrier. The carrier said that they sold that load. They were authorized by the internal broker to sell that load to another carrier, and they sold it to this other carrier, and that carrier is the one who scammed us. It was a whole thing. But who ended up paying us is the carrier, that first carrier. So I recommend, if it's a scam, call first the shipper directly and then the receiver, because they're the ones that should be giving you money. You have the bill of lading showing that you delivered the load. If it's just a broker who is being a jerk and doesn't want to pay, file against their bond. Why is this happening? Jeez. I'm so sorry, guys. My chat is being a jerk today. It's skipping, and I'm constantly trying to find my place. If you don't factor a load, how do you send invoices to get paid? Very simple. So on the rate confirmation, you will see somewhere at the bottom or on the second page, you will see billing instructions, right? And usually there will be an email, and it will tell you have to send your bill of lading, invoice, etc., to this email. So when you are invoicing the broker directly, you have to send it to that email, put the load number in the subject line, and attach the invoice, bill of lading, rate confirmation, and any additional things like receipts that you have to get reimbursement for, if there are any. Do you regret switching from vans to flatbeds? Absolutely no. I do not regret it. I love flatbeds, not Right now, the flatbed market is being a jerk, and there's a lot of downward pressure. But the thing I absolutely love about flatbeds is the predictability. You know for a fact that 99% of the time, whenever you get to the shipper or receiver, you're going to get loaded or unloaded. This is the great thing. Appointments are very rare in the flatbed realm. You just get there when you get there. This gives you an opportunity to grab more loads sometimes because like for a reefer 700 miles, it's usually a 2-day load. For a flatbed, you can do it in one day, just deliver in the afternoon by the cutoff time. And then maybe you'll get lucky and grab another load from a shipper that works until 5 instead of until 3. New name for a company. What does it stand for? One of my coworkers took the GPS off the truck and quit the company. Yikes. What was your most difficult flatbed load and why? Well, I think I'm not the person to ask this because the person to ask this would be my business partner or one of my business partners. They both operate, well, one operates a step deck, the other one a flatbed. It's not what is difficult for me, right? Let's get kind of not philosophical, but let's really talk about it. What is really a difficult day for someone who is dispatching or finding loads? It's bad negotiations, the broker sending you to hell, right? But difficult in reality for someone who's actually behind the wheel is a very different type of difficult. So for me personally, in terms of booking loads, the most difficult flatbed load was out of, I think it had to be Massachusetts that one time where I couldn't get him out. It was Massachusetts to Virginia, and then I got stuck in Virginia for a while because I couldn't get him out for a decent rate. That's difficult for me. In terms of my business partners, any 8-foot tarp load, especially 1-day loads with 8-foot tarps, those are difficult. One of my guys, he had to, what the hell did he have to transport? Some material, it was powder with 8-foot tarps. But by the time he got done strapping and tarping that load, he was white, like completely. His clothes were covered in white because it was this fine powder. He hated that load. Onions, once he had to haul onions out of California to somewhere, that's a load he hated. So it's, yeah. And it skipped while I was talking. Where is that question? Anyway, all right, no, let me answer some more questions. Which one is making more, step deck or flatbed? Is the step deck 53? They're both 53. Both the flatbed and step deck are 53 feet. So the step deck we rented. So let me tell you the story of the step deck. Step decks require ramps most of the time. Our step deck does not have ramps. And to put on ramps, it's pretty expensive. So far with our step deck, we have been taking those loads that go either on a flatbed or on a step deck. So that's how, that's the geniuses we are. We need to get those ramps on it to be able to take step deck loads. Although there are some very rarely that are specifically for step decks, does not require ramps. But in terms of money, I mean, our step deck has been doing a little bit better, but that's because he's been in a good area, right? Yeah. Do I speak a foreign language? Yes, I speak Russian, broken Russian. I speak broken French, and that's it. Happenstance, we did onion salad. Yeah, the smell was not it. I think it's the fact that the way they're packaged, it's the kind of load, as far as I understood, you have to put the tarp on top of it and you have to tarp it only if it rains, and then you have to untarp it to let the load breathe. It's an interesting load. Yeah. Angela, I recommend the DAT. I really like the DAT load board. Leaf blowers versus pool salt in the back of the dry van. Yeah. Oh, 8 foot drop. I actually have a question for you guys because I didn't research it. I have no idea. What's the difference when a broker says I need an 8 foot tarp, and when a broker says I need a smoke tarp and then an 8 foot drop tarp? Can anyone explain to me what the difference is? Because I don't understand. Smoke tarp, just 8 foot tarp, 8 foot drop tarp. Are they all the same? Why don't I run the West Coast? Because flatbeds, they shouldn't be in the West Coast. There's not much there. That's why. Smoke tarp. Smoke tarp protects the load from diesels. There we go. Thank you. Keep it from getting torn up. Oh, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it because I couldn't figure it out. I don't even know which type of tarp we have. I know it's 8 foot tarp, but I don't know if it's like the proper classification. It's extremely heavy. Like we screwed up. I know that there are ways to get a lighter tarp, regardless of size. We got the heaviest one, so yeah, it's not good. Miranda, is it hard to get a direct shipper with new authority? And how do you determine what to charge for the load they want taken? So, in terms of direct shippers, I can't really answer that question because I never really had experience with it. Every single direct shipper that we have in our contact list was by accident. Now, in terms of what do you have to charge, you have to know your cost per mile. What you have to charge is going to differ from carrier to carrier. If your cost per mile is $2.15 per mile, then you for sure have to charge way above that to turn a profit, right? And this is with deadhead. Don't forget the deadhead miles, they also count. If your cost per mile is $1 per mile because your equipment is paid off, although I don't know who has a cost per mile of $1 per mile, then you're going to be needing a little bit of a different minimum than someone whose cost per mile is $2.15. So cost per mile should be where you start calculating how much you actually need. Can't you use a Conestoga for most loads that need a tarp? You know what? We were looking into Conestogas, but thank you, Nugan Trucker. I appreciate you. We were looking into Conestogas. They're extremely expensive. And after looking at the load board, no, not every load that needs to be tarped can go on a Conestoga, which is surprising to me too. Yeah, it was just as surprising to me. Bonjour, Ida. Merci. Thank you guys for clarifying the smoke tarp, drop tarp crap. Lighter tarps are not as durable. Oh, interesting. See? Yeah, there's a give and take in everything, huh? Stone Shot Amazon. I do not recommend Amazon loads. They pay like crap. I have never hauled them. I mean, I have never hauled anything. I have never booked Amazon loads because they are the worst price loads in the market, in my opinion. And yeah, I'm not a fan. There are screen type tarps, see through. Oh, interesting. There is a lot of stuff, huh? There's so many things. You know what we have to buy? We need to buy pipe stakes. That's the one thing that we should have, we do not have. Miranda never tell a lie. Thank you, Valerio. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Three-piece tarps. I'm going to talk to my guys about that because the weight of those 8-foot tarps is, I mean, that is just impossible, especially if it's a load of lumber and it's, you know, so high and you have to tarp that and it's windy outside. One of my guys actually sent me a vid. Hold on. Maybe I can show it to you guys if I can find it. He was so mad. It's terrible. I am pretty sure I have to have it somewhere. He sent me a video of how he was tarping this one horrible load that was flying away. Damn it, I don't have the video. I have to have the video somewhere. Hold on. This is going to be interesting. No. Has to be. Let's see. Oh, there is our onion load, by the way, for those who are interested. He hated that load. But yeah, I can't find that tarping thing. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't find it, but it was horrific. He just laid out the tarp and oh, hold on. Yeah, he just laid out the tarp like this. Yeah, and every time it was so windy, every time he was trying to put it up, it would fly away. So I do not envy. I really do not envy. And this is a lot of people don't understand what the people behind the wheel, the people who actually have to do all that work are going through. And it was like 100+ degrees. Yeah. Anyway, back to the questions. To book loads on DAT, is it best to book the day before or the morning of? It depends where you are. This is a great question. Today, my guy on a flatbed got unloaded, which was a surprise because usually flatbeds don't get unloaded on Sundays. And I booked a load for tomorrow because I knew he's unloaded. I knew he can make the deadhead and everything. Usually for flatbeds, depending on the market, but I try to book the day of. And that's why often I'm going to sit and wait. And I waste a lot of time just waiting and waiting and waiting for a good load to come out. Yeah, Florida is pretty horrible for all equipment types. Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on the break even. Oh, Kraken wise, from your lips or from your comment to God's ears. I just want to be Bobby Axelrod. Just Yeah, I like him. He's an amazing human being. Which broker do you hate the most? Longship. All right, we are going to, let's see, it's 11. I'm going to be here for another 10 minutes or so. Pictures. Thank you, Caribou Dispatch. A lot of carriers are not tarping. Yeah. um, Florida is not truck friendly. Definitely not. Definitely not. I refuse to send my trucks to Florida, even though there are sometimes such tempting rates. But I will not, because I understand that the crap that I'm going to have to go through is the day that my guy has to get out of there is going to be terrible. I'm an owner operator working for a carrier. I want to get my own loads. Lately, the pay is very low. Yeah, yeah. Loads. It's all about the pity is that there are markets for every equipment type where you can get more or less decent rates, where you're not going to be. I mean, decent depends on what you mean decent. I'm talking about relatively. The problem is getting from a good market to good market is really becoming challenging. Oh my God, don't get me started on TQL. Yeah, I said to someone that I should do a kind of poll of which broker will you never work with again once the market turns. I have a feeling TQL is going to take the number one spot. Thank you, Fred. And yes, thank you to Transport King 100% for keeping this chat clean. No earthquake this time around. Yeah, no earthquake this time around. Basically, nothing too fun happening. Nay, I think a lot about my guys, take care of them 100%. You know where that comes from, and I did mention it in that video I made. This I wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have known any better. But the thing is, when I started, it was with my family member. And I talk to my family member every single day. And I hear what he goes through, and I hear the stress. And this is my family. These are the people I love the most. So me being an empathetic person, I also kind of not go through that, but I can empathize. And it hurts me too when someone is hurting. And I heard this every single day. Building a trucking business with family where one of the closest people to you is actually behind the wheel actually opens up your eyes to what every single person that drives goes through. This is where I consider myself to be lucky in the sense that I do have this experience. A lot of people are so detached because they don't have either experience driving a truck. I don't have experience driving a truck, or they didn't have anyone close to them go through that. So they're completely detached from the challenges, mental, physical, emotional challenges of actually sleeping in that tin can. Is 33K too much for insurance new authority? I mean, it's a little steep. Where are you based, Cutlass? If it's California, then it's pretty good. William Garner, send me an email. It will be easier for me to respond by email about this kind of question. Uh-oh, who made a racial comment? Yeah, guys, no, we're not going to do that. This is, first of all, yeah, we're not going to finger point. We're going to be industry professionals, okay? Would you recommend paying your employees 1099 if they have their own truck, their own equipment, they're paying for their own expenses? Yeah. But we do not hire 1099. We only have W-2s at this time. It depends. I'm not really, not really. I'm really against people misclassifying and saying that, oh, I haven't, this is an independent contractor, 1099, but in reality, they treat them like an employee. They tell them when, where to go, when they can have home time, et cetera, et cetera. That's just crap. Rokus, great question. Should you get your DOT first to let it age? Yes, because you don't have to activate your DOT. You can just get it, let it age. And some insurance companies or insurance providers, they will require an aged DOT, like 1 year plus. One of those insurance companies is Progressive. So yeah, I would definitely get a DOT and just let it be, let it sit. No, Paul Winder. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I would say no, not yet. Not quite yet. Yeah, 100%, Fred. I learn from people every day, every single day. Scott, are you serious? TQL actually, oh my gosh. So Scott said TQL told me yesterday they couldn't load me because I didn't do 20 loads with them last month. That is an excuse. Yeah. I'm telling you, they're finding any excuse. Oh my God, Thomas, that is an excellent question. I have the same question. Thomas says, I see a load on DAT, no California carriers. Do you know why this is a thing? Did you have an issue with that? 100% all the time. So, question for everyone, why? What is it about California carriers? Why this has been happening since 2019, since I can remember. So if anyone can answer and help us out here, Thomas and I. Thank you, David. No, we're an LLC, Alexander. We weigh 5. Caribou, DOT doesn't. MC only gets activated when you pay the insurance. DOT, no. DOT does not. You can get a DOT number and be an intrastate carrier. Be careful with that, by the way. It depends on the load as well. You can be an intrastate carrier and then add an MC later on and activate it. Fred, I agree 100%. Hello, Brian. Yeah, see, happenstance, Heidi, we're 1099, we can choose our load. That's a perfect example. Yeah. If you have control over your own business because you are a business person as an independent contractor, yeah, 100%. Which broker do I like the most? I would have to say if I had to choose one, it would be Arletson, but this is a broker that's very hard to find. He's tiny and I haven't seen any loads by him forever. So second is Molo Solutions. Let's see. Armando, I'll need to check that out. I haven't received any letters about that. I need to check out about what's going on with California lately. But I'm seriously starting to think of moving the trucking companies to Colorado because, as far as I know, from what I have learned from one of our one of the people who was working on our insurance renewal, just trying to get us a quote, he told me that Colorado is the cheapest state when it comes to liability insurance. Any other brokers that work within UMC? Uber Freight. Convoy used to be one of them, but I do not recommend Convoy. Be careful with them. Something is happening with them. They are on rocky ground. It looks like they're going to the ground is going to fall from underneath their feet. So be careful with Convoy. I read some weird things about them. What other brokers work with new authorities? I don't know, maybe R&R, but I'm not 100% sure. Molo Solutions requires some months, as far as I know. JB Hunt requires, Coyote requires. Yeah. Yeah, we weigh 100%, 2.5 in every company. In one company, it's the trailer. In the other company, it's half of the truck, the front one. Oh, Lord. All right, let's see. DB, if you add MC number later, will you lose age as a carrier? Your carrier authority is your MC. So your age as a carrier starts not from when you add the MC, but when you activate it, when you start paying for insurance and get BOC3 on file. All right. Convoy is 6 months now. Holy moly. Yeah, Convoy, something is happening. They're on rocky ground, you guys. Do you use Landstar? Yeah, we do. Not the biggest fan of them, to be quite honest. I know there's a lot of the people saying double brokerage, but I'm not the biggest fan of them because of the fact that they charge you to upload your paperwork. In order to get paid, you have to pay them first. This is the thing I don't like. Rocky Finance. Yeah, James G. Something's going on with Convoy. I'm going to tell you what I found. Hold on. I remember reading it a couple of weeks ago or something. Convoy. Something's going on with them. Yeah, so there was a bunch of articles. There was Convoy hires bank to advise on strategic interest. Let's see. There was something about the factoring companies removing them from their list because Convoy has not been able to pay what they owe to factoring companies. Yeah, something like that. So I'd stay away from Convoy. C.H. Robinson, I've never worked with them. I refuse to work with them because they have never negotiated it, even in the best of times. And I will not work with brokers who do not negotiate. The moment you tell me that take it or leave it is the moment you lose me. Not going to do it. Is it a good time to get into the business? No, I cannot recommend anyone get into this business right now when, I made a video about this. The market is not uh, getting better significantly yet. And the only reason it is getting a little bit better is because the capacity cannot survive. People cannot survive. So who would I be to recommend you jump into the Shark Tank? I mean, you might survive, but I'd never recommend it. That's my stance. I know you guys are going to do what you're going to do. I'm just telling you my opinion. Get your, I mean, Roku's, if you have a CD, if you don't have a CDL, get your CDL so it ages. There's, just get it and yeah, let it age. Meadowlark, 100%. So Meadowlark sent an email to their carriers, their carrier network, saying that we understand we're not paying our bills, but we hope we're going to soon. Yeah. Stay away from them. But honestly, their credit score is like 34 right now. Right now, it's worse than 2008. Yeah, I've been in this industry since 2019, but I hear that this is the worst year ever. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to start heading out. Yeah. Let me answer just a few questions here. Are you finding that truck prices are going down? Yes, I think that I see that prices are still going down. Have I ever got a freight guard report? No, we have never had a freight guard report. If we did, I'd be freaking out. But no, thankfully, not yet. And in terms of what do you recommend for my trucks that are parked, I'm not sure I understand the question. All right, guys. Anyway, I'm going to go. I really appreciate you all joining me today and asking your questions. I'm sorry it was a little bit slower because I was trying to get that market update and forecast, and then I was missing questions. I'm catching up, and yeah, anyway. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for teaching me about the difference between the different tarps. I appreciate that too. And thank you for teaching me every day. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to talk about what is happening in the month of September in the freight market. And I wish you all an amazing weekend. Bye, guys. And thank you to Transport King. Can't forget the sheriff who keeps it all clean. Bye.